last week in Lagos. Is that how you say it? Lagos? Mm-hmm. Which one?
Lagos.
Yeah. I haven't gotten that one completely correct yet, but it's coming. Lagos. And I'm curious, we went to Ikorodu.
Who are you? Sounder XYZ, I use Sounder.xyz a lot as well. I actually started off using Manifold. Yeah, that's how I minted my first song ever. And I think my first 2 songs on Web3, and then I dabbled into like my Decent and then Sounder XYZ. I think those are the only 3 platforms that I've used so far.
What's up, everybody? I'm Maceo. Welcome to another episode of We Them Niggas. And this past summer, I traveled to Africa for the first time, specifically to Lagos and Abuja, Nigeria. This journey was all about connecting with the incredible members of our We Them media community and deepening our partnership with Creative Alchemy, a community deeply aligned with our mission to bring artists, Nigerian communities, and African communities broadly on-chain. I'm back again with another episode of We Them Niggas. Second to last interview planned of my trip to Abuja, my whole trip to Nigeria, my first time in West Africa. It's been a spectacular time. From the moment I arrived, I've been pretty much with this guy. I arrived to him and Ngozi playing Ashake and Central Cee Wave.
Make nobody stress me, I'm on the wave right now. When I get in my
on loop, because he knows I'm a Central Cee fan. I didn't know how to feel at first, being welcome to a song on loop. I said, this guy doesn't know how to receive me, huh? But since then, I felt you put me on to so many different songs, so many different artists. You made sure that I've been safe on this trip, that I've been fed, that I've been presentable per se even, and that I've been conscientious about where I take my camera and how I use it. So I appreciate all those things. I'm doing this follow-up interview on our first interview to ask you a bit about how the overall trip has been. The first interview was really about your music and where you're at. This is more about, your experience as a community member, being here in this house, being here with me for these 2 weeks. I know you weren't necessarily sure how you were going to be receiving me. And so I'm curious, how are you today, first and foremost?
I am doing great as always. I feel like every day one has life is a good day, and being around you makes it even better. So I can say it's been a great day, bro.
Likewise, brother. Likewise. And how has the overall trip been for you? I feel like you've said a number of times that this has kind of shifted where you're at energetically.
Yeah, the whole trip it's been amazing. I think amazing is the one word to sum it all up. And it's also been like a huge shift for me, like mentally, being around a lot of creatives and like-minded individuals. It's always a good thing, like for one's mental health. I don't get to hang out with people so much, but it's like I feel like I let myself out of out of my I'll say out of my cubicle, and just being around a lot of creative minds and like a lot of intelligent people has given me a different insight on life and even like how to relate more with people. So I feel like it's been a great trip. Like having to show you places. I didn't know I was I was like a tourist until this trip, sorry, like a tour guide, right? Until this trip. And so like it's just been a different experience for me. It's like nothing I've done before. I don't think I ever received a guest, but I think it was pretty nice, and you've been a great guest so far, man. Like seeing you also, like I feel like you've enjoyed your stay here. Definitely. Like seeing you explore and just be yourself, like trying out new things. I mean, it's a beautiful thing to see, and also getting to learn like your perspectives on like the issues and the concerns of this country is also very insightful. So overall, it's been an amazing and very educational time and trip for me. So yeah.
And I guess when you say like my perspective on like some of the challenges facing this country, which things are you thinking of most specifically? But we have talked about that a good amount. That's true.
Yeah, I think you've hammered a lot more on like the inflation, and like having never seen inflation like from this perspective, right? So it's never. Like having you witness it firsthand and just know like the how an average man lives. I think you've also mentioned that a lot, like like the common man can get on a plane, so why don't we just get on a bus and go to Abuja, and I never used to think like that, but like seeing this guy coming from the States and want to have this experience, and it's like, okay, like why not? Let's do it. And I feel like that was part of the highlight of the trip for me, because it's something that even I that live here never tried before. So it's like it was a fun experience just trying it with like friends, or I would say brothers, and we made it safe here. We've been having fun here. So yeah.
And I'm curious, what have been like some highlight moments for you? Like seeing me come and explore. Like you have been my tour guide, but also just like I don't know how to get anywhere. I'm like, how are we gonna get there? You're like, oh no, Maceo, don't pay hundreds of dollars to go see Badagry.
Yeah.
I've been trying to say that right for a week and a half. So
yeah, you said that right. That definitely made me feel good, because when you told me like, yo, I don't think I'll be able to go with anyone to this trip. I feel like you felt like you wanted to go there alone, and that made me wonder, like, if he's saying he wants to go there alone, that means because he can't afford to pay for 2 people, then that must be a lot of money, So like getting to figure out, it was about $300, and I think we spent less than $100. All 3 of us, like that was well worth it, and that was also like not that moment, but like that trip, the visit to like the land of no return and the whole slave museum, I feel like was one of the trips that I really wanted you. Like I was one of the places I really wanted you to visit, because that has a lot to do with like your heritage. Your origin as a black man, right? So yeah, I felt like that was kind of significant, and I'm glad that we did embark on that trip, because at some point it felt like we weren't gonna go, you know. But then we just woke up Sunday morning and we were like, okay, like let's embark on this trip. It was
if it was church or my heritage, I don't think it's gonna be church. Maybe next time.
Yeah, so like it happened. I'm sure you learned stuff. You saw things, with your own eyes, like things that had been preserved from like hundreds of years. And I feel like history is always like is an important thing in life, right? Like I feel like it's something that most people do not pay attention to. It's like, because if you don't know your history, it's gonna be a lot difficult to make a change, or even like know how to navigate, towards making a change. I see you as a pioneer and as an ambassador for change. So I feel like that was important for me to like, go show you that side of the country. And pretty much all the places we visited, like I think every single moment that we've spent together has been significant. So I can't really say this is the highlight of the trip or that, like every single moment has mattered. It's been an amazing experience, like I said earlier, bro, like super, super amazing.
And I guess last week in Lagos, is that how you say it? Lagos? Which one?
Lagos. Yeah.
I haven't gotten that one completely correct yet, but it's coming. Lagos. And I'm curious, we went to Ikorodu, yeah.
Ikorodu. Wow, you're really you're catching up real fast now. Yeah, I like that.
And I'm curious, like, what you thought of that trip to Ikorodu. I know the ferry was trying at times. I was sitting up there getting wet in the face, but I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I'm in like a little speedboat going to meet the Web3 bridge guy and Daddy Ayo.
Yeah. So that was our first speedboat trip, huh?
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was great. Like man, that was one of like the most informative trips and like inspiring trips to me, because I had never seen anything prior to like when we visited the Web3 bridge hub, right? Like it's so crazy to see that someone cares enough to want to educate other people, right? Like people that probably do not have access to materials, but have interest in learning these things. So like he's been able to like fill that gap in his community, and by doing that, we heard it from him and saw, with our eyes, like he's empowering a lot of youths that would have been maybe on the streets committing crimes and doing anything to make money, but now like they're learning ethical ways to make money, take care of themselves, take care of their family, and also be of value to the community, So it's like it's just been so amazing to see, man. Like shout out to Ayodeji, that's his name, right? Like he's a super amazing man. Like just for caring enough, and he made me realize something, you know, like we as Nigerians oftentimes address the problems that we face more than even talking about possible solutions, right? He's someone that has proved that, you know, we need to do more than we talk about the things that are going on here. Because if change is ever gonna come, then we need to stop focusing on the problems and thinking of solutions to the problems. Like that's the only thing that's ever really going to make a difference. So seeing him, you know, be an ambassador of that, like it's giving me a whole it's giving me a complete mind shift on like how I want to approach the problems here in my society, you know. So I was really inspired by seeing the Web3 Bridge Hub. Like super amazing thing that man's doing.
Nah, I definitely think so. I feel like I haven't seen a lot of Black people in this space really operating as founders, I would say. You know, I think there's a lot of developers, and a lot maybe isn't even like correct, you know. There's some developers. I think there's some people like working in VC. There's some people doing like different roles, law, stuff like that in Web3 space. But I really can't say that, you know, I could name 10 founders, you know, let alone 10 people working on trying to build schools to bring more Black people into the space. So I really thought that was beautiful. I was like, dang, like, you know, it's incredible you've been able to get funding from the Ethereum Foundation. It's incredible you've been able to get backing from, you know, the powers that be in this ecosystem to recognize you as someone that's trying to build value for Black people in Africa. Like, I think that's like, it says a lot about like the Web3 ecosystem that they support him in the first place, but even more about him that he's been doing that for 5 years, working towards like a future where this is a tech hub of Africa. I think that's so beautiful and so inspiring. You mentioned that, you know, his perspective on how we can start to address issues by being the solutions inspired you. I'm curious what kinds of issues you're thinking about addressing. I know over the past 2 weeks, you've talked a lot about how your mindset as an artist has shifted to think about what you're perpetuating and pushing into the youth, but what kinds of issues do you want to address?
So I feel like first off, the best weapon that I have at my disposal right now is my voice, is my music. I feel like music has played a huge role in the society, like over the years, bro, because no matter who you are, I feel like at some point you've consumed some music in your life, you know, and not knowingly or unknowingly, you know, it must have inspired some certain things, some certain decisions that you've made in life. So it's like, I feel right now more of like a messenger, and I want to really focus on the kind of messages that I put out there through my music. Like, someone listens to my music, like what does it inspire in them, you know? So it's like I want to try to, like, you know, make conscious music that makes people reflect on the decisions that they make, and probably you know, just do away with a lot of things that have been what's the word imposed as normal, you know, made societal norms, but actually aren't, like, you know, the right things to do, you know. Like, I feel like a lot of music I hear is just about, like, you know, vibes. We keep vibing, but how long are we going to keep vibing when there are actual, you know, problems that we need to be solving, you know, issues that people need to be aware of, you know? So it's like, I've taken that upon myself, and I have a lot of plans long term. I was talking to you earlier on this evening, like, you know, like Ebenezer, I realize is not just an artist, you know, it's gonna be like the mother company of everything that Ebenezer is, you know. JED is Ebenezer, you know, like a lot of other things that I want to branch into. But most importantly, Ebenezer means a stone of help. So I feel like I want to live up to that name. I want to be able to help people, you know, facilitate and like assist them in any way I can. I mean, hunger is one of the issues that people face out here. Over the years, I want to build like food banks where people can just wake up and go get food and eat without having to pay anything, you know. Like that's like one of the things that I have in mind regarding that, and like do a lot of charity work, and yeah, just support people in any way I can, you know. Like That's just what I'm thinking. That's my thought process on, like, you know, how I want to instill change in my community.
Yeah, in your country, no, I got that. And I guess, like, dialing back from that and more so into the Web3 space, how have these 2 weeks shifted how you want to approach, like, your role in that space and the kinds of opportunities that you pursue and the things that you're working on in that space? Like, you've been an artist in the past, but I've heard you also talk about DeFi over the past 2 weeks. I heard you talk about meme coins. I heard you talk about, like, building platforms and, you know, what platforms you like and why, and what innovation you even don't see happening. I'm curious, like, how has your thinking around that whole space evolved?
So I feel like I consider myself an explorer. You know, like, I love to explore a lot, and I feel like I've explored Web3 to an extent where, like you said, you know, like, I went from just the music side of it to, like, NFTs, flipping NFTs, buying NFTs to be in certain communities, you know, to, like, memes and like everything that I've been able to, like, I've been able to lay my hands on, you know, like, I've dabbled into them and, like, understand how they work and how I can leverage them, you know, to my advantage. And I realized, to an extent, it kind of took away from, like, how I interacted with, like, my community, my music community, which is my main community. And right now I want to put more focus on that side, because I feel like that's how I got into the whole DeFi space. And that side of, like, DeFi is still very much like a toddler, you know, like, it's and like, we need to keep feeding this toddler till it grows to become, you know, a man or whatever it's gonna grow to become. So it's like, I wanna tend to that community more. I want to focus a lot more on that side of me, and maybe make potential investments if I find them, you know, like, legitimate. Because I feel like there's a lot of, as much as, you know, there's good ways to utilize the tech, there's a lot of opportunities, there's still a lot of scammers out there, and, like, we all need to be careful and know the things that we're actually, you know, getting ourselves involved in. So
I had a friend that got scammed this week. Shout out to my friend.
So that's pretty much it. A lot of amazing platforms out there. I would say the ones that I've used, I started off with, like, decent.xyz. It's like a platform for, like, minting NFTs, not just music NFTs, like any NFT actually. It's like a marketplace, but they have, like, and sound.xyz.
I interviewed Nikki Bean, and she used to work as, like, the, I think, head of community and marketing for decent.xyz. No longer. She's left the Web3 space. I think she's working in, like, space tech now.
Oh, okay.
But then you said sound.xyz.
Yeah, sound.xyz. I use sound.xyz a lot as well. I actually started off using Manifold. Yeah, that's how I minted my first song ever, and I think my first 2 songs on Web3, and then I dabbled into, like, my Decent and then Sound.xyz. I think those are the only 3 platforms that I've used so far. You know,
have you used Catalog at all?
Catalog, no. I haven't made any one-of-one music NFT. I feel like that's something I want to do, but I just don't know how I'm gonna go around it yet. I've already, like, I have a profile on there. I just never really figured out how I was gonna go about, like, what I wanted to do with a one-of-one song. Like, you know, like, I don't just want to go and upload a one-of-one song. I want to like, create a use case for it, you know, something like that. So I haven't used them yet, but I'm excited to, like, try them out in the future. For sure. I've been looking at this platform on Solana as well. Like, that's not the ETH blockchain, because all these other platforms I mentioned are on Ethereum, right? This one's on Solana. It's called Vault.
I have heard of that. I know that.
Yeah, so I'm maybe thinking of minting stuff on there. You know, like,
is that just like a general marketplace? Is that different than Sound in some way, or no?
Yeah, I think it's a music marketplace. It's not just a general marketplace. Yeah, so it's just for music NFTs and on Solana blockchain.
And so you're dealing with a different ecosystem and, like consumer market per se. Yeah,
lest I forgot, I also minted a song on the Cardano blockchain. I know a lot of people don't want to talk about Cardano, but free. Yeah, free. I had free on ADA. So free was on ETH and also on ADA. and I used this platform, 6City. They actually reached out to me and they were like, "Yo, have you thought of releasing anything on like ADA and like blah, blah, this is how to go about it and stuff." Like they could walk me through it, and I was just like, okay, it never hurts to try new things. So I did it back then, and they were super amazing as well. Like I think the founders there are really cool. To be building on that chain, like, and still care enough about music and musicians. Like I feel like that's a good thing. I definitely would. I'm always open to collaborations. Like, so I didn't mind doing that at all.
And then I'm curious. This week, you really weren't too familiar with Creative Alchemy before, but they gave you your first panel experience, my first panel experience as well, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, what has it been like for you getting to know the Creative Alchemy team?
It's been amazing,
And the
like
community, yeah.
yeah, it's like the whole community, man. They're very intelligent individuals, super creative artists as well.
Yeah.
So like it's a blend
And
of
talented.
Yeah, like so like
Crazy talented.
It was amazing to just meet them in person. I've had conversations with a few of them, obviously, like Gladys, Kushba. I've been in the group chat, but like just having to meet them in person was a different experience. And yeah, they put me on my first panel unplanned, but I felt like it was it was cool. I mean, we learned a lot from the meetup, and I'm glad I was able to like contribute my little information that I had as well. So yeah, it was a great experience hanging out with the whole Creative Alchemy community. I feel like we are Creative Alchemy as well. Like we're a part of the community, so our community. So really amazing.
No, I agree. I just more so wanted to hear, like, as a new community member per se, like you kind of meeting them for the first time in person and stuff like that. I was curious to hear what your take was. I know one of my highlight conversations was also with Parker. I was pretty surprised. He was the most like I feel like technical person I met on this whole trip. Even actually including Ayodeji, because Ayodeji's not a software developer.
Yeah.
And it was pretty cool to meet Parker, just talking to him about like him being in the space in 2014. I'm remiss that I didn't get to interview him actually. But it was super cool to see, his knowledge, not only of the blockchain space, but then of music culture, of the larger Nigerian context and culture. I thought that was a beautiful conversation we had the other night as well.
Yeah.
And I guess as we kind of wrap up, I'm curious, like, what's it been like for you, like being with Dan in person, and another person we spent pretty much this entire trip with?
Dan and Press.
Yeah, I mean, Press as well. Okay, but Dan first.
Oh yeah, Dan. Dan, I consider him like a big brother now. Like I was saying, he's been our dad on this trip, because like he's just that man, making sure he's been looking out for all of us, and just being a nice person overall. It's been great hanging out with him and like just getting to know him more. We met once in Lagos.
In December.
Yeah, in December, but I feel like it's completely different when you get to spend time and like actually live with someone. So like he's a great guy, man. I mean, no stress, no disputes or anything like that. No one's been salty or rude to anybody. Like
That's true.
I feel like that tells a lot about how we all are. It means that we can we're people that can coexist and live with each other's differences, so I feel like that speaks a lot, and I feel like that's what real community is all about. So like always, man, shout out to We The Media, like for being able to like bring people together in this manner, man. Like really amazing.
It's been an incredible experience for sure. And as you said, I cannot forget Mr. TK back here, bumping his tunes, headphones on. How has it been for you to finally meet him in person and work with this young man?
Wow, it's been one of the most exciting parts of like the whole hangout and like trip to me. It's been so amazing, man.
You do
like,
have lock-in sessions.
Yeah, like having to make music with this man, like in person is a whole experience for me. Because usually, like, he just sends me beats, I do my thing, go to the studio, dub it down, and like, yeah. But now, having to like share my ideas on like what I want to hear on the beat at certain times, and he runs with it and even does it better than how I imagine it to come out. Like, I feel like, man, I should have been working with this guy in person, like from this from the onset. But you know, it's happening at the right time, and I'm excited to like evolve around him, you know. Like, it's a beautiful thing. He's taught me a lot, like over the past few days, like things that I didn't pay attention to. I didn't think they were I didn't see them as issues with like my creative process, and now like he's pointed out those things, and they've made me a better composer, you know, like a more relaxed composer. And it's just like, wow, how much more can I learn like when I spend more time with this guy? So like it's been a great experience just getting to work with him in person, man. Super talented and super focused.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I mean, I never really worked with a producer really in person. And like, I guess that's not true actually. I worked with Sky Gecko like pretty heavily, but I feel like working on this like cypher track today, like the four of us, yourself, TK, Joshua, Dan, and myself, I think like is the most I feel like I've worked with a group of artists, and also really the only time I've ever, you know, had people kind of make me feel like I want to refine my freestyle into like a verse that I'm proud of to contribute to something. And I was really appreciative of like the feedback that he was giving us as we we're going back and forth, even like as I was trying to speak to Joshua about things I thought he could make changes to. I felt like he could give more words to the things I was trying to say because I didn't have language for. And I was really appreciative of that. I feel like TK is way too humble. I feel like so talented. You know, I feel like, frankly, even like when I first heard Can't Stop, I was just like, dang, who's this guy singing, rapping on drill beats and making music NFTs? And so when you told me that he wanted to come, I was like, how do we get him here? You know, I want to hear the man who perked my ear up to drill beats on chain. And it's been incredible to meet him. Exciting to see him come out of his shell and engage with us. To have him at the event the other day and hear that, you know, he already felt like he knew a lot of that Web3 stuff, and I wasn't sure where he was at with that stuff. He says he really helped him along in Nigeria, which I think is beautiful and demonstrates, you know, you as a leader help people come on chain as well in this creative space, but also just like awesome to find a producer that's really excited just to collaborate, you know, that's excited to be a part of the community I've been building. I think for a while now, it's been like a lot of heads down looking at, you know, how do we get more Black people into our community? Like a lot less about like music on chain and a lot more about just like community on chain first and foremost. But I feel like this trip has really been an opportunity for me to see the creative side of everybody, you know, even Dan like talking to me about his poetry to, you know, doing the intro and outro to the song that we worked on today, and even putting down a little verse. Like I was like, okay, Daniel, you know, it's just like, it puts a huge smile on my face to see somebody, you know, set the stage for that. And, you know, I feel so appreciative that TK came with us on this journey. And super excited to make my return to West Africa and continue to lock in with him and yourself, and just like really even just being online, locking with this community more so to think about how we can collaborate and make more music. Because I feel like I started this podcast knowing I wanted to find a community of creators I could create with. And it's crazy to say that here I am in West Africa and I found that community because of this podcast. So, you know, I feel so blessed, and so appreciative to you, you know, for being like really one of the main reasons I was even thinking about coming here. You know, it's like, oh, I want to document this guy, I want to give him the fest. But I think you not coming to California and me coming here for these past 2 weeks has been like a completely different game. And I'm just like so appreciative of the time I got to spend here. Like, I feel like it's crazy. I feel like in America, they make me feel like, oh, Black people, like, there's nowhere like comfortable for Black people to go in the world. I've been hearing like, oh, this is pretty chilling. Like, everybody here is Black. Like, at the event, like yesterday, for example, I think like they have people playing loud music, and I'm like, you know, like they're just like it's not like, I feel like in America, some like white people will be running that space and be like, you cannot play this music or that music. And I feel like they didn't care what you put on at all. They start dancing too. I'm like, dang, it's like the powers that be aren't Caucasian, and this is a whole different game. You know, I think like the dynamics are different, but they're not the same. And I think it's pretty beautiful to see like really race not be a conversation so much. And it seems to me like faith is a different conversation here, and like there's different tribes and things like that, and different problems in different regions in this country. And I'm eager to continue to learn and better understand these different issues. I feel like this country has shown me a beautiful time. I've seen this is a beautiful country. I think going by road to come here, I think was just inspiring to me because I got to see, you know, like different windows into different parts of this country. You know, I think it maybe wasn't the most comfortable ride for 12 hours, but it was definitely the like I saw more in that trip than I feel like I've seen the ABJ since we got here, since we've been in this Airbnb so much. And it's been beautiful to interact with the community, but I think it was just amazing to see, you know, the places people live on the bus ride and just being on this trip with you. So I appreciate you so much for, you know, shepherding me through this part of my own life experience, of my podcast journey. I haven't felt unsafe once since I arrived here, and I give so much credit to you and Dan for that. And just making sure that even if I don't know what's going on, you two know what's going on. You guys are talking to people. People don't know what I'm saying. You guys are speaking. I'm like, okay, great, because otherwise it would be me. Now we even know what to put into to Google Translate. So, you know, I'm just so deeply appreciative that we're getting to bond and come together in this way. And I do consider you all my brothers, and I'm so appreciative to have found this community here in you all, and to be going back home confidently knowing I have community here.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Always, brother.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna pause.
3, 2, 1. Booyah!